Coming up next is a very inspiring story of one of the most successful entrepreneurs we have in our midst today. He owns the biggest local coffee brand in the country, but more than that, his social responsibility is what inspires many across several industries in the Philippines.
Steve Benitez is an icon among Filipino entrepreneurs. He who has put the spotlight on Philippine coffee these past several years. He is known more widely as the father of Bo's Coffee, a homegrown brew that is loved and patronized by the Filipino coffee community. Steve has always been an entrepreneur, having started other businesses before he started Bo's Coffee in 1996.
Well, right before I opened it, I studied the business for 2 years. I attended a lot of conferences and expos, and I traveled a lot to immerse myself in the coffee culture outside of the Philippines. And one day, I felt that I was ready to open, so that was in 1996. And when I opened, right before I opened that store, nobody believed in my concept. And so I really relied on my guts to take on the project. And 2 months before I was about to open, even my partners, my two other partners, backed out of the project. And so what I had was my belief in the project, my belief in the concept that really pushed me to do it. And that's basically how it all started, right?
Steve now shares that before he started it, all the studies he made indicated that he shouldn't even open the business because it didn't look like a feasible one.
So you have to remember, in 1996, the concept of what we know of coffee shops right now was totally alien to the market. No one was doing it. It was totally new. And so they all felt that it wouldn't work. At that time, coffee was something that was purely a commodity and a beverage, and there was no experience attached to it. And when I did a study, people said that they will not pay 15 pesos for a cup of coffee.
Back in 1996, the coffee was just given away after meals in the restaurant, and more people were familiar with instant coffee. Steve's concept was unheard of, but the young entrepreneur went on with his concept anyway. In the first 3 months of operation, he had sales of 300 pesos to less than 1,000 a day, which wasn't even enough to cover his rent of 10,000 pesos per month, but he plodded on.
For me, it wasn't just a business. It was something that, it was kind of my way, or my form of showing and executing the passion that I had for coffee.
His concept involved elevating the coffee experience by introducing coffee that uses espresso as a base. Definitely a first here. It was a purely coffee business with a very limited beverage and food lineup. People were intimidated by the special coffee choices and would not order the cappuccinos and lattes.
I remember an instance where there was a lady who came to my store and asked for a drink and asked what drinks we were serving. And so I said we were serving freshly brewed coffee or espresso-based coffee. And she mentioned how much. She asked how much, and I said 15 pesos for drip and 25 for espresso or cappuccino. And first reaction, that's really expensive, no? Ang mahal naman yan. So she was saying, do you have anything that was cheaper? Like 5 pesos or 10 pesos, because she was used to instant coffee. And I said, no, we don't. I explained to her what our coffee was. I explained to her the process that the beverage goes through. And she just said, no, I don't want it. She was going to turn around. But I think that was my turning point. I said, I can't let this girl turn around and walk away from me. And so I said, ma'am, why don't you just sit down and I'll give you coffee for free. Try it and give me your judgment at the end of your drink.
In the first 3 to 6 months, he was giving away coffee for free just to educate the market, and he was ecstatic when he got a lot of conversations after that.
The biggest thing that makes us different is that Number one, we're a homegrown company. If you look around the industry, this is dominated by foreign franchises. So we're the biggest homegrown coffee chain. That makes us different.
The second one is Bo's Coffee only serves Philippine coffee and is so proud of it. They highlight and showcase Philippine coffee, and Steve's dream is to bring back our homegrown brew to the global stage. He shared that in the late 1800s, the Philippines was one of the biggest coffee growers in the world. Sadly, we lost that position over time due to lack of investments and government support, which led many farmers to shift to other crops. Now, Bo's Coffee wants to bring back our lost glory, but in the process, Steve Benitez needs to make Philippine coffee popular here at home first and ensure that we have enough supply. Right now, we grow only 30% of the local demand, and the 70% is imported. Steve's advocacy now is to support the coffee industry by procuring Philippine coffee directly from the coffee farmers themselves.
So we have an industry-wide campaign composed of all of the coffee stakeholders, and we formed with the partnership of government, Philippine Coffee Council. And so I'm very active in that, and our objective is to increase yield for the coffee farmers and in effect increase income for them. The Philippine coffee that we source would range from different parts of the country, depending on what variety. So if you're talking about Robusta, they come from the lowlands of Cavite, Batangas, some of them from Mindanao. But if you're talking about the higher quality Arabica beans, which we use, our Arabica beans are sourced from the highlands of the Philippines. So such as Benguet, Mountain Province, Sagada, very popular one. We have it in Bukidnon, we have in Mount Apo in Davao, Mount Matutong, and in Cotabato and Mount Kitanglad in Bukidnon. So basically, the highlands of Mindanao and the highlands of Luzon.
Steve Benitez, the entrepreneur, is also acutely conscious of the social enterprises around him and tries at every turn to engage with these social entrepreneurs. In 2011, when he was trying to reinvent the coffee experience in Bo's Coffee and trying hard to source out something unique to the Philippines, he met such a person named Anya.
And she was so passionate about the Philippine fabric, or the weaves that come from different parts of the Philippines. So she would bring all of these fabrics to her shop in Cebu, and when I met her and I saw what she was doing, I felt that the fabric could actually be integrated into our shops through the upholstery, through our uniforms, and through our merchandise.
Anya went on to become a supplier of Bo's Coffee and was very grateful that Bo's became her biggest client that helped make her social enterprise sustainable.
I think that was a eureka moment for me, because then I realized that what I had as a business was a very powerful platform to change lives.
For Steve, the engagement with social entrepreneurs was a concrete manifestation that business can be a very powerful platform to effect change in the industry where you belong. In the coffee industry, change must first come to the coffee farmers. He also had to seek out more social entrepreneurs whose products are related to the coffee lifestyle and integrate them into their system. He created a platform for them just to plug in, and Steve gives them market access. Examples are Bayani Brew, an iced tea company; Cha Laya, a local herbal tea producer; Rags to Riches; Theo and Philo, that source their cacao from Davao.
I would call this a social procurement platform, where we procure from social enterprise partners and we monitor the progress of their communities to make sure that our impact in them is felt by the community itself. So we support them by giving them equipment. We support them by giving them some kind of a community education. So in a small way, I would still call it small, because I believe that we can really make a bigger impact as we move forward. So that's how that engagement started. That's how that model started.
In the process, the father of Bo's Coffee has gotten himself involved in several organizations like Endeavor.
Endeavor is an organization that helps these entrepreneurs who make it as part of Endeavor to help them scale up quickly and faster. And that has been a big impact to me. And the other organization that has the biggest impact in my entrepreneurial journey is an entrepreneurs organization. So entrepreneurs, or EO for short, it's an organization which has a chapter in the Philippines, but it is a global organization of entrepreneurs.
Because of his engagement with entrepreneurial organization, he grew his business from 10 stores to over 100 stores in 13 to 14 years, and he is set to open 20 more this year. Another milestone in Bo's Coffee history is their Qatar store, which was 2 or 3 years in the making.
And so we soft opened a week ago in Qatar. So we signed up a exclusive country franchise with a group there who's in retail for them to open 5 stores in 5 years or 3 stores in the first 2 years. So they're already going to be opening 2 by next month.
In Bo's Coffee's 5-year plan, the company was supposed to expand globally in 5 years. But Qatar happened earlier than that. The company will continue to expand in areas where there is a big concentration of Filipino communities starting 2020 or even in late 2019. Because of our continued economic growth in the country, it is inevitable that more players want to come into the country. Steve finds this most challenging.
So the number one challenge for us is to be able to always update ourselves to the level where competition, or even higher than competition. So there's this pressure to always reinvent yourselves, to make yourself relevant, and to make yourself more efficient. Number 2, I would say location. Finding the right location has become also a challenge for us. As I mentioned a while ago, this industry of ours dominated by foreign franchises, and most of the malls would actually put Filipino brands second in line.
Steve is happy to note that there is a growing sentiment here at home to support Filipino brands. Simply surrendering to the easiest route of just getting a foreign franchise stifles Filipino creativity, Steve says, because then there was no need to create something unique to us.
So I encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to, one, come up with something original that uses Filipino, how would I call that? That uses the unique resources from the Philippines, because then you can make yourself different from the others. Now, even abroad, the Filipino ingenuity and products are being recognized. So that's really opportunity for Filipino entrepreneurs. You have first dib. You are from here, so you have that first dib. So take advantage of that.
Our young entrepreneurs can definitely learn from the father of Bo's Coffee. He puts a lot of emphasis on focus and discipline, and he is very bullish about Bo's Coffee being here for the very long haul. He is now working on having 200 stores and by 2021 to expand globally.
Hopefully, we will be in more than 5 countries by 2020, and we would have over 200 stores in the Philippines.
And to the young entrepreneurs who are impatient and to those who go into a business blindly, this is his advice.
Number one advice is for entrepreneurs is before you dive into it, make sure you have enough information so you can make a wise decision. Your decision should be based on data. Your decision should be based on good information. So that's number 1. And number 2 is to have the discipline to follow through. I mean, some of the entrepreneurs I've met, startups, because I also mentor startups, they are very impatient in scaling up. I mean, you see a lot of stories wherein they're instant millionaires and people want to be one right away. That doesn't happen. In real life, maybe 1 out of 1,000,000, but reality is it doesn't happen all the time. So the other advice I'd like to tell entrepreneurs is to, number 1, be disciplined. I mean, you have to have the discipline to stay on course and not get swayed by by what's just happening outside. So information, and I always say discipline. Discipline is something, it's always a big word for me.
You've just met Mrs. Steve Benitez, father of Boss Coffee, our proud Pinoy entrepreneur this week.